You're listening to Romancing in Paris on Paris Underground Radio.
Hello, and welcome to the Romancing in Paris podcast. I'm your host, Lily Heise. In this podcast, we'll be traveling around the city as I pick out my top romantic spots per arrondissement. You don't have to visit these places only as a couple. Exploring them can be the expression of your own love of Paris. Are you ready to get romancing in Paris? Hello, and welcome back to Romancing in Paris. In the last episode, we nibbled our way around the 6th by visiting the district's wonderful collection of historic romantic restaurants. As tasty as that was, as we move over to the 7th, we might need to get some exercise to work off all those rich classic dishes we indulged on. Grab your sherry. We're going to the Jardin Catherine-Labouré. In the previous episode on the 7th, we also visited a garden, the beguiling square Roger Stéphane. I thought you might like to pair the two gardens together on a romantic outing, as both are very beautiful, have interesting histories, yet are rather different in feel. Since they are close together, that's also convenient. What's more, both gardens are quite hidden, which adds some titillating intrigue to your outing. So, where is this new secret garden? The Jardin Catherine-Labouré is tucked away behind a large wall on the Rue de Babylone, just a block west of Le Bon Marché department store, and just 3 small blocks away from the square Roger Stéphane. Even though both gardens have links to former convents, their feel is completely different. But before we visit the Jardin Catherine-Labouré, let's learn a little more about its history. Previously known as the Potager des Filles Saint-Thomas, the Jardin Catherine-Labouré has origins that go back to the early 17th century. In 1619, it was established as a vegetable garden of the Maison des Filles de la Charité, the Daughters of Charity, a religious order which was founded by Vincent de Paul and Louis de Marier, both of whom were later beatified as saints. The garden served as the source of sustenance for the Daughters of Charity, who were known for their assistance to the poor and sick. The buildings of the religious order run along the adjacent Rue du Bac and Rue de Sèvres. Fortunately, these survived the revolution and can be seen from inside the garden, and today are classified as national monuments. After the revolution, in 1830, the garden gained historic significance when Catherine-Labouré, a novice within the Daughters of Charity, claimed to have had a series of divine visions here. Catherine reported seeing the Virgin Mary, who instructed her to create a medal, later known as the Miraculous Medal, which would become a symbol of faith and devotion for Catholics worldwide. The events that transpired in this garden led to Catherine's beatification and further established its importance as a spiritual site. The garden was opened to the public in 1977 and has only been somewhat modified since. Now, just to clarify, you don't need to be religious to want to visit this garden, but it's nice to know a little about the history of what is certainly a heavenly and tranquil oasis. Shall we pop by and visit it? As I mentioned earlier, the garden is quite hidden. So, walking along Rue Babylone, you'll come to an opening at number 29. between Rue du Bac and Vanneau. This is the entrance to the garden. Walking through its gate, you'll find a surprisingly vast space, divided up into a few different sections. Down some steps is a pedagogical garden with vegetables and fruit trees, a nice revival of the space's history, and which is used on school outings to teach children about horticulture. At the back edge of this, you can see some lawns, and then further beyond, parts of the 17th century convent buildings. This helps you imagine what it was like back in the past. And these buildings provide a lovely and original backdrop to the garden, which many other public parks don't have. A statue of the Virgin Mary stands at the center of the garden, commemorating the apparitions that took place here in the 19th century. However, in my opinion, one of the most romantic places in the garden is its long vine-laden pergola, found on the right side of the garden, where there are some benches which beckon lovers to sit and enjoy a little break in the beautiful and peaceful space. Before coming to the park, you might like to pick up a high-quality coffee at nearby Coutume, which is found just a little further up on Rue Babylone at number 47. Alternatively, Rue du Bac is lined with fabulous food shops, so you could instead, or in addition to the coffee, pick up some treats along the street to savor in the park. Really close on Rue du Bac is Le Bac à Glace, an ice cream shop where you can get delicious ice cream cones or cups to bring to the park. Further north on the street, there's a branch of Angelina's, famous for its hot chocolate and pastries, which you can get to go. Or, for something more contemporary, there's Des Gâteaux et du Pain, an excellent bakery and pastry shop. If you haven't found your desired delectable at one of those places, there's also Beau Passage, a culinary lane filled with top-notch food venues. But we might learn a little more about this foodie paradise in a future episode, so I won't tell you any more at this time. Thinking of moving to Paris or coming for an extended stay? Tune in to the brand new podcast on Paris Underground Radio, Broadening My Horizons, in which host Abby Rifle, a college student from the Midwest, comes to Paris for the first time and shares her impressions with listeners. Find it on ParisUndergroundRadio.com. Romancing in Paris will be right back after a word from our sponsors.
And now, back to Romancing in Paris.
As I suggested earlier, I would also recommend pairing a visit to the Jardin Catherine-Labouré with the more intimate Square Roger Stéphane. But be sure to listen to my podcast episode on it first, or while you're there, as the Pocket Garden has a wonderful romantic story. Lastly, if you're spiritually minded, you could also visit the miraculous metal shrine, which pays tribute to Catherine-Labouré and her visions. The shrine, located in a small chapel at the edge of the garden, houses a replica of the miraculous medal and offers a place of reflection and prayer for pilgrims and visitors alike. The entrance is at 140 Rue du Bac. Thank you for listening to this latest episode of Romancing in Paris. If you have a minute, ratings or reviews are always extremely appreciated. You can find more great ideas for romantic things to do in Paris and around the world on my website jetaimeneither.com, and check out the other wonderful podcasts of the Paris Underground Radio if you're looking for more content on Paris and France. Until next time, happy romancing in Paris.
This episode of Romancing in Paris was produced by Jennifer Garrity for Paris Underground Radio. For more on this show and shows like it, please visit parisundergroundradio.com.